All right, guys, it's 7. Call to order Rankin City Council meeting April 8th. Mr. City Manager, can you call the roll?
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Underwood?
Here.
Mr. Exley?
Here.
Mr. Blackwell?
Here.
Ms. Taylor?
Here.
Ms. Riley?
Here.
Tonight for the invocation, we've got Pastor Rick Johnson with the St. John's Lutheran Church. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, Pastor Johnson, for coming out. And after the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, guide all those here in authority and all of us, that we may be just in purpose, wise in counsel, and unwavering in duty to you and to one another, in the administration of our responsibilities to ourselves, to our families, to our nation, to our state, and the community that we serve and live within. Hear us as we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had a question last week, and I want to get into approving tonight's agenda. In an attempt to speed things up, we've made some minor changes, so I just want to make sure that everybody's aware up here that we, when you make your motions and your votes, let's just do it, you know, so that I can hear everybody. And I will, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Scott, second from Ms. Riley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next item here is approval of the April 1st, 2024 minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We talked about this last week in the public comments. Comments shall pertain to agenda items only. Should you wish to appear before council, forms can be found at City Hall. Also, comments cannot be made during administrative reports as well. And if you have any other questions, that can be addressed by the city manager by appointment. I will turn the meeting over to the public officer.
All right, open for public hearing. We have first a hearing to consider a variance filed by Seth Cannon with Evans General Contractors to construct a monument sign 100 square feet over the maximum square feet allowed per the city's ordinance. This is located at 1000 Suwan Road. The property is owned by Effingham County Industrial Development Authority and is zoned PDU, that's Planned Unit Developments, parcel R2840002. And at this time, I imagine Ms. Carey has some things to say.
So Planning and Zoning Board considered this at their meeting, at their March 19th meeting. They voted to recommend approval of the variance with the condition that the maximum size of the sign would be 200 square feet. Right now, 100 square feet is the max for any sign in any zoning district in Rincon. You can't build any bigger than 100 square feet. They're looking to do 200 square feet. I know the applicant is here and can tell you a little bit more about the reason for that. The vote was 4-1. We had one dissenting member stating that he felt that the plant and site themselves were large enough that people would know where they were going, but the remainder of the members felt that based on the both the size of the site, the size of the proposed development on the site, that a larger sign was warranted. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we have a picture here. Is this an accurate representation of what the sign will look like?
It is. The dimensions are.
Sir,
I'm sorry.
can you come up and
Yeah,
state your name?
Good evening. My name's Seth Cannon. I'm with Evans General Contractors, and I am the applicant for this variance. Yeah, so the file that you guys have shows approximately a 20 by 10 monument sign just like that. Yes, it'll be dual-sided with the sign will be illuminated as well with like front lights. It won't be floodlights shining on it. I know that was a concern at the planning and zoning meeting, but the actual sign itself will be lit. So it'll kind of glow, so that when the drivers come, the site kind of sits on a curve. So as they come and approach the plant, yes, they can see the plant in the background, but where they'll be turning into the road to come into the site, that'll give them an obvious, turn location.
So it'll help mark that
Yes.
road as well.
Correct.
Will there be, what type of will there be landscaping?
There will be landscaping, and that design is currently underway.
How far off the road is that monument proposed to be
It's
built?
approximately 95 feet.
Okay, so if somebody was to come out to do a right-hand turn, they got clear vision
Yes, sir.
in the direction?
Yes, sir, and the right-of-way, or property line is about 85 feet off the current road, so it's about 10 feet beyond on the property side of the right-of-way.
I know we haven't reviewed this, it's a little early, but we was talking about lighting. Was there gonna be lighting at the entrance also of the?
Like pole lights, there are
Correct.
proposed, pole lights that, either Georgia Power or State-One will be installing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
not
know it's
part of
not
our
numbered,
scope,
yeah.
yes, sir.
Anybody else got anything? Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Yep, thank you guys.
If anyone else would like to opine at the public hearing as it relates specifically to this requested variance, you now so have the opportunity. The floor having been made open to the public and no one having come forward, it is now appropriate to move towards the second item for public hearing, and that is a public hearing to review proposed amendments to the City of Lincoln ordinances, specifically Chapter 90, that is zoning and growth management, Article 2, administration, Section 90-71, protective buffer of adjacent property, and Article 5, tree regulations, to amend said ordinances to update these sections in conjunction with the overall drafting of the Unified Development Ordinance. Ms. Terry Lewis has the floor.
Thank you. All right, so this is the first chapter that you're seeing in full as part of our new Unified Development Ordinance, which we went ahead and worked with our consultant starting in January. This is the first part that she's got. We're working on the next set of chapters 2, and those will be moving through the process. With this, hopefully everybody had a chance to look at it, and I also included a memo to kind of hit the highlights. I mean, this is certainly one of the shorter chapters that you'll see, but it is an important one, which is why we had asked our consultant to move forward with it so quickly and to move forward with it first. I think one of the big benefits, especially like from our side, and I think from the user's side, is that all of this information is going to be consolidated in one chapter. There's no more flipping through, searching to try to figure out where all the tree information might be located. We've identified native trees and shrubs as preferred on those lists, protecting trees larger than 24 inches on the large tree list as champion trees. Increasing buffers for all residential development that's adjacent to industrial development. Providing more specifications for tree protection zones. So we had some in there before, but they weren't as specific as they could be to really provide that protection that we want during development. So we've added that. A tree bank option. And again, with the tree bank option, this doesn't mean that somebody can just decide that they don't want to plant trees on their site and they just want to pay. If they don't have the room to plant all the trees that are required on their site, they have to go through a process, and we can consider that. If it's a site that maybe doesn't make sense, think of a big warehouse site where maybe at the parts of it you don't want all the trees there because nobody's going to get the benefit of those. Maybe we want those on a city park site instead. But again, it's an option, it's not a guarantee. A landscape berm option is in there as well, and then we've created a preferred shrub list as well. The other thing I want to point out, I did put this in the memo, but we did have Effingham, Georgia Green take a look at this as well and make some suggestions, and we incorporated those where we felt that it was a good idea to do so.
So I did have a question. I did read through it and I saw that, there's lots of, you shall not damage a tree, you shall not cut down a tree. How are we enforcing it? I'm assuming through our officer. But is there a list of fines? Like, how do we?
So there
how's
will
that
be,
being
we
done?
have to do this process first.
Okay.
To get it adopted, and then we'll come forward. In December, we had updated all of our fees and added some new fees. And so we would do that same thing here. We would look at whatever new fees we wanted to add. If we want to add a fee for a standalone tree permit, for fines, anything like that, we'll come forward to council with a recommendation for those fines. But it would be treated much like any other violation. They would either get a warning or a citation depending on what the violation was. And that would
So
be
in
something
the
that our code
interim-
enforcement officer would handle.
In the interim, if we approve this, you have no leverage to fine anyone until you get to that fee schedule in December?
No, I'm saying we just went through the process in December. No, we would move forward with it as quickly as possible, so,
Okay.
no, I was just using that as an example of that's the process we go through, is we bring it to council to get, y'all to approve a change to fees.
Okay.
And Terry, my question's this, and I know your background's Hilton Head, so we know Hilton Head does trees better than anybody else on the planet, I think. Do you guys have a plan set in place to recognize what trees are not to be touched and keep up with those? Because I know when you get out there with massive amounts of acreage, sometimes it's hard to know. As my 8-year-old grandson said, why do they put orange things around trees to protect them, then they go back and cut them down anyway?
So we will have an approved site plan. Now, we're not going to do necessarily a yearly maintenance, but we will go back as part of the process for issuing our certificates of compliance and occupancy and make sure that they've preserved the trees that were in the tree protection zone and shown on their site plans to be approved. And if not, then not only would there be fines, but they would also have to plant to make up for those trees that were supposed to be protected. Because when we're doing our site plans, we're calculating the amount of trees that have to be replanted, and that's based on what they're preserving as well. So if they're not keeping something that they were going to preserve and they haven't come to us beforehand to say, hey, when we went to put in this utility line here, we had to move it, and here's why we had to take this, we need permission to take this tree down, then there will be consequences.
Right, and
So there's
then-
a,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, so there's a property inspection before anything is ever approved?
There's
How do you know what trees are there?
So, a couple
That
of
was my
ways.
question.
So we do as part of this, they have to do a site plan that shows where the trees that they're gonna be protecting. So they're gonna have to show a tree protection zone around those trees. We do a site inspection. Now, sometimes that's us, sometimes that's a third party.
So what's to stop them, Terry, from just eliminating the tree from the plan so that you don't know it's there?
Well, it's they really can't do that because the surveyor's putting their surveying license at risk, because the surveyor is the one that does the survey and
Yeah, this
provides
is-
that,
That's where it's
so.
basically,
The surveyor has-
basically, it's a plan, it has a plan, the tree, it'll have a plan, and those plans, those trees, it'll be identified on that plan,
Yeah, if you,
and.
Right, and done by a surveyor, so it's not an applicant walking out there and just saying, there's 2 pine
Got
trees
it.
here and.
Yeah, cause I was
That's what
thinking
I'm
like
thinking
Brandy,
about.
because over on that Chimney Road site, right on the other side of Chimney Road, there's some really nice oak trees, and who's to say that, you just don't
How do
cut
you know
those
they're
down
there?
and say, oh, they weren't part of it,
Well,
it wasn't in our plan.
I know
You
that
know.
the plans we see, especially Hilton Head, identify all the trees, and then the plans even show which trees will go, which ones have to stay. And they
And then-
identify every type of tree.
Okay.
Right, we've asked now that trees to be removed be marked with an X on the plan so that it's very clear which ones are remaining and which ones are going.
And then another question, do we have in codes and ordinances that the city of Lincoln's codes and ordinances to protect, especially these champion/legacy trees, override HOAs?
I mean, we don't have that written in our code, but I think that's just a given that our,
Yeah, I will tell you this, and I respect HOAs and value what they do, but their regulations mean absolutely nothing to the city. Our regulations will trump theirs every time.
So if a homeowner calls their HOA and says, I wanna cut down that tree, and the HOA says yes, then,
That's great for the HOA, but if they don't have city approval, that's when the citations and the inspections come in, regardless of what the HOA tells them.
So if that HOA came to you and said that there's a tree that possibly has some rot in it, you guys would, who would send the arborist to go check that tree?
It would be the homeowner's responsibility to provide us an arborist report showing that that tree is diseased or dead.
And then it could be taken down based off of.
That's correct.
But the city would have to give the approval to do it.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Do we have a plan in place to update HOAs, especially in the larger communities?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say too. We're gonna do public education, and communication efforts throughout this whole process as these changes get adopted.
Yes.
We're gonna be, public education's gonna be key.
Let's let them finish.
Go ahead, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
didn't hear the last half of what you said.
So, I was just saying, public education will be key as we go through and adopt these in segments, so we will be doing public education through a variety of sources to get the word out. We've been compiling, we've been compiling lists of HOAs so that we can get information out to them. So we're gonna be looking at all different ways to make sure that people understand that we've adopted new regulations and here's what they mean. Cause we don't want people to get in trouble.
Right.
I mean, we want people to know what the right thing to do is.
And we'll make sure that as we go through those public hearings and those public comment periods, as this UDO gets developed, that we make sure the HOAs, or the contacts we have, are invited to those meetings and that those documents are shared. It's in our app, it's on our website.
Mhm.
Terry, that her team promoted on the Facebook page.
I mean, I do agree, you know, we have these meetings and they're welcome to come to them. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of engagement, and I just
Yes.
wanna make sure that we're doing what we can to update
Yes.
them.
Well, and when we go visit them, we can get
We'll
them.
start talking
Yes.
about stuff like
Yes.
that,
Mhm.
yeah. I think, you're right, that's why we call it community engagement, because we wanna let them know how important it is to be here. You know, be present, even if you can't be present, but other than.
Well, that's why
Facebook.
we're gonna go there,
That's right.
so I think it's great.
And
Yeah.
it looks
We'll
really
probably
good.
get some
Sarah.
pushback from
Good,
homeowners.
and Terry
On this.
Effingham, Georgia Green was good with these?
Yes,
What
they
about,
made some suggestions.
it says cutting, what was it? Cutting down, killing, or otherwise destroying trees on something that pertain, the section pertain mainly to current trees by property owners on, you know, like a house. A lot of this applies to new development, but there was that one section where cutting down. What about trimming the trees? I was trying to find that and I don't really.
Trimming trees is acceptable. It's
So there's no permit requirement beforehand?
No, there
Because
isn't,
I
not for
know
trimming.
a lot of neighborhoods, ours, Lost Plantation, Winsburg, all up and down Fort Howard, I see tree trimming trucks all the time in the neighborhood. And sometimes they're removing trees for whatever reason. So now they will have to get a permit, but just to trim one.
To trim a
they
tree,
wouldn't
they
have
won't
to.
need a permit.
Because a lot of them are big, big pines is what I'm saying, yeah.
So should they remove a tree that they shouldn't have, say like a legacy oak? Is the requirement that they replace that with a legacy oak?
Yes, typically it'll be the same size or greater, and then definitely the same species. If for some reason they couldn't get that same species, then they'd have to get something from that same large tree category.
Anybody got anything else?
I think it was really good. I think a lot of thought went into it, and I appreciate it.
Very good, Terry.
It is now appropriate for any member of the public wishing to speak in favor or against the proposed amendments. You now have the floor if you'd like to stand up. Seeing no one, this public hearing is now closed, and I turn over the meeting back to Mr. Mayor.
We'll get started with old business. We talked about the adoption of the FY 2022 audit for the city of Rankin. We tabled it at the 4-1 meeting. Motion is in order to remove that from the table.
Make a motion to remove.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Riley, a second by Ms. Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I guess now we'll move forward, motions in order to approve the adoption of the FY 2022 audit for the city of Rankin.
I had one question. On the packet that I got, the first page is like a cover letter from Canes and Hodges. It's dated June 6, 2023, and it's addressed to Mr. Kevin Exley and Jonathan Lynn.
Mhm.
Well, Mr. Exley was not even on council on June 6, 2023.
I asked Mr. Matthew Keynes about that, because we just signed it. That's the date that they initiated the audit process, but it's not signed until they're ready to present
Right.
it. So both of those are right, the names and the date are right, because that's when they initiated the process of the FY twenty-two audit.
Okay,
Yeah.
that just
'Cause
stood out to me, so.
He's provided us, I think, 3 different copies of it, and we asked him every time, is this date right? And it absolutely is.
And Mr. Lynn, they'll be here the next meeting, didn't you say? to-
Yes, sir, they had a conflict tonight. They will be here at the April 22nd meeting to present the actual audit, and if anyone has any technical questions to get some clarity, Ms. Riley's already provided me a couple to get some answers on, but I'm happy to share a little bit of quick information that I shared at the last meeting for the
Please.
public, just so
Yes.
they can have, so just, we're happy, this is our FY '22 audit. This covers the period of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. So we are required to adopt this audit. We are technically at this time a little bit out of compliance with our state requirements, the 3 areas that your government maintains compliance with are an adopted SDS, an adopted comp plan, and an adopted audit. So we're 2 out of 3, but they don't count that. So this does get us back into compliance where we're eligible for grants and our state money at that point, once it's adopted and we get it to the state. That being said, there's a lot of numbers in the audit, a lot of things that are above my comprehension level, but I do have some highlights for the public so that they're able to understand where we are. So overall, in that FY '22, we did expend $144,394 more than we had budgeted. However, the good news is, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, our revenues exceeded our original revenue projections by $2,043,652. So with that, as well as some of the other items we had in there, we were able to contribute $2,396,158 to fund balance. And I can just, let the public know that it was not staff expending money that we didn't have. We did have to budget for streetlights, for $145,024 that we had not budgeted in previous years. So if you put that number together, that took up that entire overage of expenditures based on the overall budget.
And that was streetlights on 9th Street?
What's that?
9th Street?
It's throughout the city where Georgia Power passes those bills along to the city. So it's throughout the city and not in any one location.
Okay.
But the Canes Hodges will be here on the 22nd to do their presentation to you guys. So if anyone has any questions that you would like me to pass along to them from this document so that they're prepared to answer them, please just let me know and I'll get it over to them.
So I'm assuming we need to approve this tonight. If we approve this tonight and something comes up out of those questions in that presentation on the 22nd, it can absolutely be amended, right?
We can always amend it, yes, we can.
Okay.
Any more questions? Anybody got anything? Motion's in order to approve the adoption of the FY 2022 audit for the city of Rankin.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Riley, second by Ms. Underwood. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the consent agenda. If any of you guys have questions on that or anybody with the public, if not, I'll request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion to approve the consent agenda by Ms. Riley, second by Ms. Taylor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll go ahead and move to new business. We'll vote on the first reading to approve a variance filed by Mr. Cannon with Evans General Contractors to construct a monument sign 100 square feet over the maximum square feet allowed per the city's ordinance located at 1000 Saywan EV Road. properties owned by Effingham Industrial Development Authority and zone PUD.
I make a motion to approve, unless there's any questions.
Second that.
Got a motion to approve by Ms. Riley, second by Mr. Blackwell. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Number two, we'll vote on the first reading of an ordinance to consider proposed amendments to the City of Rankin's ordinances, specifically Chapter 90, Zoning and Growth Management, Article 2, Administration, Section 90-71, Protective Buffer of Adjacent Property, and Article 5, Tree Regulation, and to amend said ordinance to update these sections in conjunction with the overall drafting of the UDO. Anyone got any questions? Council?
No, make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Ms. Riley, a second by Mr. Scott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I am being told that we have an opportunity to go into executive session. I'll need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blackwell, a second by Ms. Taylor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We tried very hard.
So I know we got executive session, but look at the clock.
Would we get it in?
23.
27?
That's
pretty
good.
Well, the positive is
You would've had